Okay, so if you are an end user and you're using the customer portal as a someone who is going to be jumping in and submitting requests, this is going to be for you. And I'm going to cover all of the visual elements, exactly how to submit a request, and then go into viewing your previously submitted requests, either open or completed ones if you ever wanted to reference them, as well as how you communicate with the agents on the back end once they are submitted. So this view here is going to be sort of the home page. This is where you start and submit and find all of the requests, the general things that you might be submitting, or the documentation that is provided by your agents and the people that are servicing your particular problem. So you'll see the search bar up here, and I'll come back to this in a little bit because I want to show you how each of these work individually. And then when we go to the search bar, it'll make a little bit more sense. I'm going to be using Service Desk as the example for this demo. So this is going to be a little bit more ITSM focused, but obviously the general concepts apply to any other type of portal, whether it's like customer support and you're submitting just a general request, or it's like an HR request or an engineering request. Really the concept, the layout, and everything else is going to be very similar. And I'll touch on a couple other portals as well. So at the very top, we have a banner. And this is typically going to be an announcement from the team that is providing you service. So if you see anything appear, typically it's curated and catered to like show you something in the moment. It might be around for a day, might be around for a week, but it gives you an announcement to kind of give you a little bit more context if something's going wrong, if something is down. So sometimes you might see like an announcement here that says, hey, XYZ platform is down. We already know that it's down. It should be up in X amount of time. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, but we're working on it. That way you kind of have a little bit more context on if something is down, or if someone is out, or if like delays are, or if there are delays, if someone from the team is out, or if the team is kind of a little bit backed up. You'll be able to see general context information right at the top. Below that, we have the very first thing which shows up for us, which are going to be documents or like general self-service Confluence docs that are available to us as customers to be able to either self-resolve, self-help, or like get general information really quickly. And honestly, this is probably one of the most useful things when they're set up correctly, because you could probably fix your own problem faster than submitting a request, going through an agent, them looking at it, them responding. By the time that happens, oftentimes you could probably, if it's a self-serviceable thing, go through and actually do it yourself. So a super quick example of that, let's say I'm trying to connect to a VPN, and I have this article right at the top that says Wi-Fi/VPN connectivity. I click on that, and now I have a couple of articles that I can look at. And let's say I'm using a Mac, and I have an article here specifically for a Mac VPN setup. And instead of going through and raising a request, which I'll show in just a moment, I could go into here, and I have a very simple article that I can follow to do this myself. And again, this would probably take me maybe 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes to do on my own, versus an agent who would probably respond maybe after a couple hours, if you're lucky. And then depending on the type of request it is, the urgency that it's at, how many total requests have already been submitted that day. Like this might take days to get a response from and get this VPN set up. If it's a higher urgency request, it might take maybe 30 minutes, maybe a couple of hours. So either way, if it is something you can do yourself, skim through the article, try going through the instructions and completing the request on your own, because you will actually see a faster resolution for that problem. And there's a reason that these are featured at the top and shown to you in this way, and it's because they are self-serviceable requests most of the time. Sometimes they add a little bit more context information, but usually it's going to be something very specific to solve a problem. So if you see something very relevant, device support, Wi-Fi, VPN help, software help, click on one of those, check out the article and see if it's relevant. Try walking through what you can. And if you can resolve your own requests, trust me, oftentimes it's going to be quicker than actually submitting something. That being said, there's always a use case, and there's always times where we do need to submit something as a customer, in which case there's a couple of ways to do that. So there's a submit a request button right here. And if I head back to the portal or like any of these options in here where I was just looking at the specific articles, I'm still going to get that need to raise a request button right here. So it kind of follows you around wherever you are. But if I head back and I click that from any point, I now get a list of groups and request types that I can actually submit. So I'll go through and find my relevant request. Sometimes you have something like a common request or just like a general item. And I could see in here, it says Wi-Fi and VPN. It also says Wi-Fi and VPN here. So also here, but I could click on any of these that say something relevant to what I need. And then I could scroll through and find that's the one I need. I'm looking for specifically VPN. These should be very simple and straightforward to understand. You shouldn't have to like read through these and be super confused. Ideally, you have a very simple portal with very easy to submit requests and very easy to digest things that you can just immediately identify and know that you're submitting the right thing. And if it's something that doesn't fall into like maybe one of these particular groups, there is a Get IT Help. And for the most part, when you submit this, it's going to be like a catch-all. And most of the time, it's going to be lower priority. So I would recommend staying away from this if you can. If there's an alternative like requesting a laptop or reporting a broken asset, you're typically going to get a faster response time for those things because they're pre-curated in a way where your agents have very specific information and know exactly what's going on with those requests. So I definitely recommend trying to find something more specific. And if you cannot, go with like the general Get IT Help or like ask a question. So those are going to be your options. And let's say that I go through and go with my VPN request. I'll go through and all I have to do as a customer here is fill out the form or the fields that are set up for me. Anything that you see with the little red asterisks means it's required. Keep in mind, raise this request on behalf of, you actually won't see this because I'm an agent. I actually see this for, because like I'm an agent, I can submit these requests on behalf of other users, but this gives you one less field to worry about. And you could just go through anything with an asterisk, you fill out. Anything without an asterisk is optional. That being said, the more context and information you provide in this request, it's going to get you a faster resolution because there's less back and forth. There's less communication that needs to happen. So do your best to pull in and add as much information for the agent to be able to resolve this with like one step. So everything should be listed here for the agent to see what's happening, see what the problem is, be able to provide a solution or resolve something, and then you're good to go. The more vague this is going to be, the longer it is going to be for you to actually get this resolved. So it is in your best interest to provide as much context and detail in these sections as possible, even if they are not required. So we'll go through and add a summary like I need to connect VPN on my MacBook. I'll actually run through and submit something very quickly. And one other thing that you actually notice here is that based on the keywords here, we have suggested articles that we saw earlier. So we now have Mac VPN set up. And if you didn't find something relevant earlier, you might find something relevant here. So just double check these articles, see if you find something here that might help you. If not, you kind of keep going through and keep filling out this request. I'm going to keep this very brief, but again, please fill this out with as much detail as you can for your own benefit. I'm just going to say I need a VPN for demo purposes. We're going to select the region, in the America region office. Let's see, let's say I'm in the Austin office. Very simple, very quick form. And all I have to do is click send. I can click cancel if I don't want to send. And once I do that, my request is submitted. Now I'm going to get taken immediately to the screen of submitted requests. And I'm going to cover this a little bit later, but as soon as I submit something, it will take me here. And I'll show you how to find the screen later in case you ever want to revisit an open request. So let's jump back into my portal homepage. And you can do that by clicking on the Help Center icon on the top left. That brings us all the way home. And if you're stuck in any of these articles or you're looking at specific things, you don't know where you are, all you have to do is click on the Help Center on the top left. This may have a different name for you. Each company has some customization here. You might have some banners. It might be a little icon, but it's always going to be on the top left. And if you click on that, it'll take you to this homepage. Now, there's a couple more ways to submit requests as a customer that might be a little bit quicker than going through and pretty much doing what I just did. The first one is going to be by looking at your recently used request forms. And if you know you submitted something recently that you need to submit again, just go through here and click on whatever you need to. It takes you directly to that form. You're good to go. So that might be one of the quickest ways if you know you submitted something recently, and you could just go down here, click it, submit it, you're done. So that's one way to kind of get a little bit of a shortcut rather than diving through some more menus. The other option we have is with the search bar. And I wanted to demo this after I showed you the request types because it'll make a little bit more sense now. For example, if I type in VPN, I'm going to get a couple of things surfaced for me. I'm going to get the #1 resources or like the documents that we looked at earlier. So again, instead of digging through each service desk, each portal, finding out which documents they have, finding out what's relevant, what's not relevant, I might actually go through and just type in the search bar my particular problem or question, and then I'll get immediate resources that I could look at, and I get immediately taken to what I need to see. So that might save you a couple of quick clicks. If you know what you're searching for and what your keywords are, typically keywords are going to be pretty straightforward for the most part. But if you don't really know, or you aren't really sure how the projects are structured, or if you're going to be going to the correct place, maybe check out the portals first. But if you've already done some previous requests and you're pretty familiar, you know exactly what you're looking for, try the actual search bar to see if that's going to help. So I'll type in VPN again, and again, I have the resources at the very top. And then I also have an option to chat with a virtual service agent. This is really, really cool. And I'll show you this in just a moment, but it's kind of like an AI bot that also helps you resolve requests. And I think it's even better than the search bar, but the search bar is kind of option one for getting a little bit of a shortcut to what you need. And the search bar is going to be searching through everything. So it's not just searching through the service desk. It's searching through operations, through marketing services, any portals that you have here, even under the show more panel. It's going to be indexing all of that information and pulling up the most relevant thing for you. So keep that in mind, because you're not just searching through like the service desk, which might be the only portal that you may be using. That being said, like if you're an employee and you're at a company, service desk, HR, marketing services, operations, those might be very common for you. And you might be using most of the time multiple portals rather than just one. So do keep that in mind. Now, the next thing we could look at is the virtual service agent. So if I type in VPN, I have that option popping up for me right here. And you may have also seen it in here when I actually go to submit a request inside of a portal. There's an actual chat with service agent button right in front of me. And the service agent is really cool because it is not just like an AI that's going to try to resolve your problems. It's actually working on data that your team, that your IT team, your HR team, that your company put together that is trained on very specific information. So once again, I am trying to install VPN on my MacBook. So I'm just going to tell Service Agent I want to install a VPN. So it's going to go through, look through all of the articles inside of Confluence, index past Jira tickets, request types, everything else. And it's going to bring back the best possible answer for us. And it may ask some questions just like this. So can you please specify the device? Because the device or the process might be different based on the device. I'll just say MacBook. Let's see if it can give me an answer based on just those couple of words that I typed in. So I like doing this personally because it saves even more time than the search. Instead of going through like multiple articles, finding what I need, Virtual Service Agent will just figure out exactly what I need based on the answers that I give to it. And then rather than just displaying the entire article for me, like I saw earlier, it's actually going to give me like a quick rundown and sort of a smaller snippet of what I need to do. And the great thing here is that not only do we get a quicker snippet, it's easier to read, easier to resolve, we can now chat with it and say like, hey, I have this specific problem. Can you help me resolve that? And as long as your IT team did a good job, which most likely they did, you'll get more answers and context on how to resolve that. So go through, try this out. And if you wanted to see the original source, that's actually linked. And if I click that, I get taken to a screen with the actual doc that I saw earlier. So that is an option if you wanted to look at the full article in its entirety and follow along there. After that, it's going to ask if this resolved your issue. And this is another reason I think Virtual Agent is a lot better than actually just going through and submitting your own requests. It's because you can say yes or no. And if I say no, let me know what wasn't helpful. It's essentially going to ask more questions and try to deduce what's happening and try to answer for you. And now what happens afterwards, and I'll just say, I can't find the settings. I'll just say something random. What's going to happen afterwards is once it suggests some responses, it's actually just going to take you to the most relevant requests that you should be submitting. And once it generates a response, should just take another moment here. You don't have to go through and figure out which request group, which request type, figuring out which fields and all that. Service Agent will just let you know, hey, here's exactly what you need to do. If you can't find or can't do it on your own, here is a link to submit your request immediately. That way you know exactly what you need to submit, exactly what you should be doing, and it's very easy from your perspective. So it should just take a second, and I could kind of keep chatting with it for a minute here. And eventually it'll just take me to submitting a new IT request, which it just did here. So I just maybe took 2 minutes to go through, chat with agent, see if I could resolve this problem, and it just immediately opened a request for me, and I could click on that. And now we have a brand new request with the full information from the service agent related to the actual real live agent. That way they have every piece of context they need to immediately solve my problem. So instead of like going through each request type, finding each article, and then going through trying to add as much detail as possible, Virtual Assistant just kind of walks me through that process and makes it a little bit easier for me. And it's kind of a win-win for you because it's faster and easier, and it's a win for the agent because they get more context and information. And ideally, you actually solve a request without them, which makes your resolutions faster. So it's a win-win for both parties, and I highly, highly suggest using the virtual service agent. So that's going to be your service agent in my recommended way if your team has that enabled. If not, you still have the search option all the time and all the other features that I showed off. Otherwise, virtual service agent is kind of my go-to when I like to submit requests. So now that we have a request submitted, let's move on to the second piece of this, which is viewing submitted requests, either past closed ones or current open ones, communicating with the agent and kind of just seeing where the status is of those requests. So if I'm on this portal and I know I submitted something yesterday, I want to check in on how things are going, see if there's any progress, any comments, which all comments and chats and everything will also go through email, so you won't miss anything. Don't worry about that. And you could also respond via email. That being said, when you do receive a request via email or like a response or notification, there is a link to get to the portal. And I think the communication in the portal is a little bit better because it's actually like a chat and you have, which I'll show you in a moment, more context and information on your request. So I actually suggest just going to the portal, clicking the link inside of your email, going to the portal, checking it out, seeing more context and information there. But if you're here already and you want to just see all of your open requests, all you have to do is hit the little icon on the top right. And there's going to be a couple of options, and your list will be shorter. It's because I'm an admin. I see a little bit more customization options. Really, all you need to worry about are requests and sometimes approvals if you're like a manager or someone who's providing an approval for like hardware or software access or building access or something else. So you may have approvals which also come via email. So don't worry, you won't miss any notifications. But for the most part, I would say 95% of the time, you're just going to be looking at your requests. So let's go to our requests. So when we're at this screen, we could see all of our previously submitted requests. And if I go to this little tab at the top, I can see all of my closed requests. And if I click that, I now see a bunch more things that I've previously opened that are now closed. And this is great for if I wanted to reference maybe something previous that I have already submitted and has been resolved. And maybe I don't remember what the solution was or what the agent told me to do in that particular moment. So I could actually jump in here, look at one of the closed ones, click on this, and we'll go over the screen in a second. And then we'll get all of the correspondence, the information with that agent, including all the details of that ticket. So we could go through and like actually see these particular items, whether they're closed or open or specific statuses if you'd like. I really find the most relevant ones are just these top two with open and closed. And by default, open, which makes the most sense, is going to be anything relevant that is still outstanding. Then we have like all are created by me or where I'm a participant. And this is going to be if someone shared a request with you. You can see specific requests that are not created by you that have been shared, relevant for maybe managers. But I find just to see all open requests a little bit cleaner unless you have like a very long list and you want to just see the things that were shared with you. You also have request type, which essentially isn't very useful, especially if this is like a very long list of things. But if you wanted to see something very specific that you submitted and you have a very long list here of open requests, this may be relevant. You could just click through, apply some of these, and that'll pull up a specific list. My favorite is just really using open, close request, and kind of leaving it at that. So when we see this list and when we actually submit a request, we can click on one of these, and that'll bring us directly to the screen that is going to open up and show all the details of our submitted requests and everything, including the correspondence. And I'll run through exactly what some of these items are, but let me open up a little bit of a simpler one. So this is one that we actually submitted with Virtual Agent, and we could go through and action on from here. So at the very top, we have the general summary or the general information on the task and what it is. And the agent actually sees the exact same thing. So when they click on it, they see the summary, and you see the summary here, as well as seeing the summary from this view if you'd like. And when you click on it, you'll typically show or see the details in this panel. Sometimes there's going to be a show or hide details button. Sometimes it'll just show it by default. But if you wanted to see the fields you submitted, the information that you provided, that can be done right in this middle section right here. And then before I go into like the actual activity panel, A couple more context fields on the right side. So we have the status. So whatever status your request is in, this could be like awaiting implementation, could be in progress, it could be resolved. That'll show up on the right. This notification button is specifically for emails, and any comment that you get, anything that happens that's like major, like a big status change, like resolved, you'll get a notification for it unless you're turning this off. By default, it's going to be on, and if you don't want them for some reason, toggle it off, you'll be good to go. Then you have the request type that was submitted with it, just for context, and a shared with panel. And here we can click on and share with anybody else inside of our organization, or really whoever your administrators allow. Sometimes this can be outside organization individuals, but most of the time it's just who's in your current organization. You drop in an email, you share it with them, and then they see the same view that you see. So maybe that's relevant for like a manager or someone who has a similar issue and you want to drop them into this request. Then we have some approvers, and I'll cover that in just a moment. For the most part, you won't see that. You'll see something that looks a little bit more like this. And then a couple of things that show up depending on the type of ticket you submit and the type of configuration that your agent has built out or your admins have built out are these toggles right here. And these allow you to like either resolve something, cancel, sometimes escalate. So just general actions that you'll see on a request that you can take. So let's say that I submitted this request and I just found out that I actually don't need it anymore. Maybe someone else on my team took care of it and I didn't need access to like this piece of software or whatever. Then I could go through and just cancel this request, and I could click on that, say, you know, whatever you need to, I don't need it anymore. And instead of just dropping a comment and kind of letting an agent take care of it, you just kind of drop in your comment and click on the action that you'd like, and you're good to go. So now cancels this request. You'll see the status changes. You'll see some comments added, automation responses, and that's how you know you're pretty much wrapped up and this ticket doesn't need to be addressed anymore. If I go back to this list, you'll see that it actually drops off my open requests. Because it is something that is closed and not open anymore, I don't need to reference it unless I specifically go to close requests, and I won't see it in my open requests list. Now, the last piece of this is your comments section. And this always goes to your email as well, but it's also available here on the portal. And I actually like using this a little bit more. And when you get any kind of notifications for these requests via email, you'll see a little link to view it in the portal, which will bring you to this page as well. But the correspondence via chat is a little bit better than email. It's a little bit less formal and like can be done a little bit quicker, add a little bit more context with rich text, and you could add file uploads here. So it's a little bit more convenient to use as a customer, especially if you're like wanting like a quick correspondence chat-like feel. So you might drop in a comment and say, what is the status of this request? If it's been a couple of days, or like, what is the ETA on this? That way you have some more context. But essentially the comments drop in just like this, and the agents will respond, and you'll see the agent responses in line right after yours. So it'll be sequential in order of date. So it's pretty much as simple as that. And you'll see this approver list, which is going to be pretty rare. And this is relevant for specifically mostly managers and directors. You'll see the approvals option. And if I click on that, you'll also get these approvals via email. But if you want to see them here, this is another option. And same as you would with the request, you click on it, it brings you to this screen, and you'll see one extra module right here, which is either to approve or decline a request. And if you have this, all you have to do is kind of skim the details, see if it looks good to you, or if you want to decline it, you could decline. And then based on your decision, you click one of these buttons, the information goes through, the Jira system takes over, your agents take over, and everything else is good to go once you hit the approval, unless you do need more input, which it should ping you if you do. Otherwise, if you just approve, all you need to do is hit that one button and you're done. So that's pretty much our full overview of open requests and how we manage those. Again, everything will be done via email as well. I really prefer using the portal because of the easy use cases and the way you could just jump in here, easily reference more information, chat with the agent a little bit better, tweak notifications, share it, makes things a little bit easier, makes life a little bit easier for myself as the customer in this scenario. So hopefully that helps and gives you all the context you need to start all the way from submitting a request, which is what we covered first, to once submitted, you see all of your requests in your request panel, and then referencing them if they're open, closed, or anything else. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to our team. More than happy to help you out with anything outstanding that you may have or any other questions that you may have.